Do you love to be near the ocean? Do you wish you could just live there all the time and leave behind all the boring land and tedious traffic? Well, it seems that there may be an answer to your watery dreams. Why not try a floating home? That can get a bit pricey though, so you may need to start saving up your pocket money. Here are 20 most expensive floating homes in the world. Number 20. The Floating Villa of Dubai. The disappointingly un-seahorse-shaped floating seahorse villas are one of Dubai's plethora of water-based dwellings that have been popping up all over the real estate-obsessed city over the recent decades. These super luxury studio apartments are aimed at the mega wealthy yacht owners that enjoy the marina in the city and are looking for a local home base. But these are no ordinary apartments. The 3,100 square foot apartments are individual floating homes which are laid out over 3 levels: underwater, sea level, and upper deck. So, the underwater level is perhaps what makes these buildings so unique. This is where the master suite and bathroom can be found, and these rooms are enclosed with completely transparent glass walls, which gives the homeowner a totally unobstructed view of the coral reef and marine life that surrounds them.
I love that there's big double glazed kind of see-through doors all around so you get the best of the view.
Presumably it's two-way glass and therefore also gives that sea life and any passing scuba divers a completely unobstructed view into the apartment as well. But I can't think of anything at all that one might do in a bedroom or a bathroom that would require privacy, so that's completely fine, I'm sure. Because these are fancy apartments for fancy people, they also come equipped with a 24-hour concierge service, 5-star facilities, and a $1.3 million price tag. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now it's time for the fancy topic. What do we have here? Well, this, we are told, is a secret floating home of a reclusive billionaire. This unnamed tycoon is apparently rather shy and has been hiding out on this colossal and massively expensive bazillion-dollar cruise ship style floating home. It seems a little weird, but okay. Let's play Where's Waldo and see if we can spot the guy in the picture. Is that him hiding behind that bush? What do you think? As always, you should comment down below using the hashtag FancyTopic and let me know what you think in relation to what I just showed you on the screen. Number 19. Floating Mansion in Miami. For a mere $5.5 million, this weird glass box house can be yours. I know, you're tempted now, aren't you? The South Beach, Miami property is a hybrid of a yacht and a villa, but what makes this truly unique is the fact that it can essentially be parked wherever you may choose. The whole building moves like a boat but looks like a house, and this house is an amphibious luxury property that's situated in the extremely fancy area of Miami's South Beach waterfront. If you don't especially enjoy that spot, well, you can simply move to another. The Villa Yacht has a whole boatload of features and the modern and oh so in vogue sustainable essentials like rooftop solar panels. Naturally, the home's location in the hurricane-prone state of Florida begs the question, what happens when the weather does its thing? Well, they even have an answer for that. The floating mansion has a unique facility that allows the homeowner to raise the entire structure above the surface of the water. This is done with a simple press of a button, which will then lift up a full 18 feet and away from the rough surfaces of the swell below. There are also the essential hurricane windows, which can withstand wind forces of up to 155 miles per hour. If you like all the technical weather protection, then perhaps you'd like to look inside at all of the luxury that is also on offer. The place has over 4,000 square feet of living space, which includes 4 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms. There's a retractable deck in the outside living space, which slides down into the hull when the home is on the move. There's a super fancy schmancy kitchen and loads of storage that includes the essential component, that's right, a wine cellar. The price tag seems like a bargain now that you know about the wine cellar, doesn't it? Number 18. Waterfront Home. So, what exactly do you get for $25 million these days? Well, this place in Boca Raton, actually. This waterfront property has a whole 343-foot long stretch of frontage, complete with deck and boat mooring facilities. So, if you happen to have a bunch of boats, then your parking requirements will be completely fulfilled. It's thrilling stuff. Anyways, this place doesn't only have all that boat space, it also features 4 pools, because why have just one when you're this rich, right? There's an infinity-edged mini pool that curves around the deck, and then there are additional plunge pools and such like for all of your wet needs. This place is even called Infinity House on the account of all of those pools. Inside, stuff gets even more fancy. There are over 12,000 square feet of accommodations with an open plan and glass-walled modern vibes throughout. Every room is truly vast. The master suite is a full 2,000 square feet of ultra-luxe space with massive walk-in closets and a colossal bathroom. Then there are 8 more bedrooms, because when you live here, people are definitely going to want to come and visit you. Everything inside is as bland and shiny and new and generic as you would expect, so perhaps you could bring a few books, or some pictures or something, to make it a lot less like a boring waiting room. Number 17. Bravia Queen Floating House. If you dream of living in what essentially amounts to the inside of a camper van, except that it's on the water, then it looks as if the Slovenian design could be for you. This place floats on the water and has a small deck in front and a larger one on top, complete with its own hot tub and palm tree. But inside, it's equipped with all the things that you might find in a modern mobile home. So if you dream of generically built-in veneered furniture and neutral beige design, well, this is gonna be a treat. If, however, the most boring of laminate flooring and basic bathroom fixtures doesn't thrill you to pieces, perhaps the location of the property, literally in the middle of any watery place it would seem, may be what really sells it to you. And if not, well, you can probably see that this is just a cheaply made tiny home with a novelty water-based option. Shall we just swiftly move on? Number 16. Organic Wood Wave Floating Home. Taking a classic design, in this case the wooden house, and putting a modern spin on it, these architects have created the Wave House. It's been given a whole raft of awards for looking all extra super shiny and modern. Architects and designers really do love giving each other awards now, don't they? This design was inspired by the shape of boats, which gives the structure its unique curving form, and that form makes a pretty big impact. The rest of the design, although certainly attractive, follows a good deal of the regular house playbook, so it is the bold and sweeping wave that gives the house its charm. Just what this adds to the overall functionality of the property, well, that's anyone's guess. But just look at the curve on that. It is still a house, and an exclusive expensive one at that, made out of standard stuff like glass and wood and steel. It sure is pretty, but is a big fancy house going to really change the world? Probably not. Number 15. The Mansion Yacht. Back in Florida yet again, this time we go to Fort Lauderdale to admire a boat at a boat show. This is the Mansion Yacht, which was unveiled in 2019, a house of fancy and luxury proportions that is actually also a yacht, apparently. Except that it doesn't go anywhere and can't actually replace a boat.
Full baths, full king-size rooms. You can go down here on a floating staircase right now.
One of the biggest boasts that the manufacturers were keen to make was the fact that it is the world's first entirely stainless steel yacht. Well, okay then. So how much is it and what do you get? Well, the asking price for this basic model is a snip at $12 million, and for that bargain basement price, you get 9,000 square feet of stainless steel yacht. It's 84 feet long, which is basically enough for 149 people, and the massive front deck is a sizable 1,600 square feet. The yacht has 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and a 7-person hot tub, and according to its makers, they were mainly receiving interest from billionaires. But I wonder, does Elon Musk actually have 6 friends to invite to sit in his creepy hot tub? Number 14. Seattle Luxury Floating Home. Now, you may or may not be aware that Seattle is a famously wet place. In fact, they get an average annual rainfall of 39.34 inches, and that's quite a lot. So a home that floats, that's probably not really a bad idea. This is one super fancy house for really fancy people. The house is massive and elaborate and designed to look a bit like European palaces or something. But naturally, it's done in that quintessentially American style of architecture, which emphasizes size over pretty much everything else, and the place is vast. Located in Lake Union in Seattle, this home is designed to take in views from the entire surrounding area. In fact, there are 270-degree views all across the lake itself, the Olympic Mountains and downtown Seattle. Now weirdly, this home, despite being on the water, has a full basement level as well as 2 floors of living space and a massive rooftop deck. It's quite posh, and all for a snip at $6.25 million. I mean, hell, I'll take 3. Number 13. Float Wing Houseboat. Next up, we have a boat, or a house, or a boat house, by a Portuguese design group called Friday. This is the Float Wing. It has a modular kind of design, which means that it can actually be built bigger or smaller, depending on your requirements, by simply adding more or less of these modules. Kinda neat. The walls are also completely made of glass panels, which will slide open and create an indoor-outdoor space, which is all the rage these days, I'm told. But what makes this home extra special is the way in which it can be equipped. In its most basic model, it is not motorized, but if you pay more, you can make the addition of twin outboard motors that will move the float wing through the water at 3 knots. Not exactly a speedboat, but it is a house after all. In addition to that snazzy feature, there are naturally all the modern-day requirements to pretend that producing new and unnecessary stuff for wealthy people to spend their money on is somehow good for the environment. There are solar panels, batteries, a pellet stove, and tanks for water storage. And there's also a super deluxe model that's built to be off the grid during the warmer parts of the year. Number 12. Atlantic Forest Floating House. Yes, if you have the finances, you can actually build a home in the rainforest. These people have built a luxury, no expense spared, all modern stuff included sort of house deep within the lush green plant-like of the rainforest, and lucky them, the house has been positioned in such a way as to avoid it being too obvious, or indeed give the local people any windows for peeping in. This is an exclusive residence for fancy people after all. The architects behind the construction claim that the building is designed to optimize the connection between architecture and nature, but that seems like a bit of a clattering contradiction in all honesty. Why not just admit that you want to build a house in the rainforest because that's where the rich people have decided they want to live? The end. It has more than a regular fair share of views, taking in the sea, the mountains, and the rainforest all around, so that's quite nice now, isn't it? And it also remains kind of hidden depending on how you look at it. Number 11. Floating Luxury Hotel Suite. The architect who designed this weird pod hotel says that he was inspired to design this when he was just 15 years old and he first saw the James Bond movie The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, this movie gave him the idea to create a space that would be devoted to the ocean, and he says he was inspired by the guy who had given up everything to live under the ocean and live in an octopus-shaped home. This is a strange interpretation, to be honest. That guy was a supervillain who had built an underwater lair. But anyways, let's have a closer look at this floating hotel suite now, shall we? This is Anthea, the world's first floating hotel suite, and it is allegedly causing a bit of a stir in the so-called eco-travel industry. They claim that the general idea is to provide a multi-sensory experience for the traveler. Well, one of those experiences might well be motion sickness. These luxury suites are pod-like and self-contained, and it really is a type of boat that can be taken out across the sea to less accessible places, and also be used a bit like the most extremely luxurious and fancy kind of on-water camping facility that you could imagine. These pods are built from fiberglass and have 360-degree views, as well as a glass bottom so that visitors are able to enjoy the undersea world. But at no time during their stay do any of the guests ever have to forfeit any of the luxuries of modern life. There's air conditioning, designer furniture, and a minibar. Whew, that's a relief then for those bazillionaires who can afford it. Number 10. Floating City. These next mansions are getting into the realms of the ridiculous, and with a price tag purported to be $1.5 billion, they may be available only to the most obscenely wealthy and most ridiculous sorts of humans. This is an entirely man-made island city that will float in the Caribbean Sea. It's being built to contain what are being called ultra-high-performance concrete modular homes. I mean, alright, but does kind of resemble a sinister, futuristic space prison. What do I know about such things? Perhaps billionaires all want to hang out on floating platforms in the middle of the sea, entirely surrounded by concrete and shark-infested waters. The design is said to have homes, or closets probably, beginning at $14,000 and going all the way up to $1.5 billion. Well, the billionaires are going to need somewhere to keep all of their staff now, won't they? Now, I don't know. It seems kind of creepy and dumb, and what do you think? Is a floating concrete synthetic island really all that appealing? Go on and have a discussion about it in the comments section down below. Number 9. Floating glass house. Now, this one may be called a floating house, but it's actually positioned on a hillside that overlooks the sea below, so this oceanfront property may not technically float on the water, but it is still super swanky and has all of the stuff that you may expect to find in a designer home in Laguna Beach, California. This is certainly not a regular sort of neighborhood. The whole concept of the building is that it's essentially invisible from the street and completely visible from the beach below. That's the whole point for these kinds of houses. You can see right into them through the entirely glass-paneled walls, and privacy is not much of an issue when it comes to showing off one's massive wealth. This property would be designed by an Orange County architect that's well known for creating so-called trophy homes in the Los Angeles area. It was built in 2004 and has 3 stories and 4 bedrooms. But then again, you can pretty much see that from the outside. You can probably see what the people inside are even eating for dinner, if you really wanted to. This 5,300 square foot glass box is allegedly worth a staggering $14.9 million, and yet they don't seem to have been able to afford curtains. Number 8. Mothership Electric Houseboat. It seems that all the way back in 2014, this bright spark had an idea for a solar-powered houseboat, but he couldn't seem to get any investors interested in the project. Kinda weird, since it seems like we've been tripping all over solar panels on floating houses all day today. Anyway, here's a vessel that its designer named the Mothership. Tim Knox was that designer, and he created a concept of a luxury houseboat that would be completely solar powered. Well, he did this in Australia, where sunshine seems to be fairly easy to come by. If you attempted to run anything entirely on solar power in Eastbourne, well, then you may well just muster enough electricity to run a rowboat. So, here is Mr. Knox's dream made reality, but back then he couldn't even find a person to take a timeshare on the thing. Let's just hope that he got the patent down before anyone else went ahead and made all of the monies off of it. Number 7. The Sailing Villa. Yep, it's another one of these floating villas. These things are seemingly at the height of fashion right now. Perhaps it's a half-arsed attempt to convince people that if their home is a boat, well, then they won't be affected by the rising sea levels. I'm sorry to break it to you, but these floaty boat things are not going to cut it when the mega tsunami comes for us all. Even a ruddy great big ark is likely to be utterly useless on that day. So here we have a Dutch offering to the world of floating villas. This one looks a lot like a modern office building that can travel a long canal. It's a height of thrilling, I'm sure. When it arrives at its destination, the owners can fold down a flap and then drive their car out of the garage. You know, a bit like a car ferry. It's not exactly the most intensely glamorous aspect, but it is practical nonetheless. The rest of the home features all the usual junk you would expect: bedrooms, bathrooms, living spaces, all decorated in generic and modern stylings, all completely devoid of soul or character, like living inside of an IKEA website. Awesome! Let's rush out and buy one right now. Number 6. Urban Rigger. Using old shipping containers as housing is certainly nothing new. It was first used by people who were attempting to save money in a frequently unaffordable area of life, namely home ownership. It was also seen as a fairly environmentally sound solution for the sheer number of these things that are cluttering up the planet already. But where there is a buck to be made, then you can guarantee that a developer will be sniffing about. So here we are in Copenhagen, where there are an awful lot of shipping containers, and these ones have been turned into student housing. This is the Urban Rigger housing unit in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's constructed from 9 shipping containers that are arranged on top of a floating base in the harbor. It's divided into separate units, which are said to be rented out at $600 a month each. And there are communal areas for living rooms, garden courtyard, and basement level with storage rooms and laundry facilities. It's all standard student stuff. But this particular building is also perched on the water, and it includes kayak space and a bathing platform. These containers have been treated with a special sort of insulation, developed by NASA no less, to ensure that they're warm enough to live in all year round. It also has all the solar panels that you can shake a stick at, as well as a green roof, and even uses a heat exchanger system to provide cooling and heating via a special method that uses seawater. Number 5. Houseboat in Toronto. We have an absurdly pricey houseboat in Toronto. Yes, that's right, in Canada, where it is freezing. Back in 2017, this house made the news quite simply on the account of its list price, valued at $1,050,000. Sounds like a lot, even for a regular house, but this was the price of a pretty dinky floating little cottage in Bluffers Park Mariner in Toronto. Now naturally, all of the bumf that was distributed by the real estate agents boasted about the wonderful views of the marina. Well, yeah, if the house is literally in the harbor, then what should you expect? You can indeed look at all the other houses that are squashed into this space. But beyond that, they were mostly emphasizing just how wonderful it is to live on the water. I imagine it would be wonderful to live on the water in somewhere like Barbados or Malibu, or even Florida at a push. But Toronto? It sounds kinda chilly for 9 months out of the year, don't you think? Anyway, the lucky buyers ultimately wound up with outdoor decks on all 3 levels, as well as an open-planned kitchen and a regular sort of small cottage kinda home. Well, lucky old them. Number 4. Villa Heli. It may look like a harbor master's office in the middle of a marina, but this is actually a marginally more interesting building that is apparently available for boring old meetings or even overnight stays, if you happen to like that sort of thing. This is the Villa Heli in Espoo in southern Finland. It is a luxury floating house which contains 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and of course, this is Finland, it has a sauna. The space is designed to sleep 4 to 5 people, but the owners love to boast that as many as 25 can have meetings or parties inside. It's basically just a weird kind of Airbnb that happens to be in the middle of a marina. But what do you think? Does the place look totally rad to you? Do you feel the urge to sit in a sauna here? Go on and have a whole load of opinions about it in the comments section down below. Number 3. The Sea Pods. And now we have more of those seemingly highly fashionably, extremely expensive, ultra-modern floating houses that are only available to the mega wealthy. This time we're in Panama, looking at these crazy futuristic Jetsons-looking pods that poke up out of the water on stalks. These pod-like structures are the design of a Dutch architect as a solution to overpopulated beach holiday destinations. Well, alrighty then. These sea pods, there are land-based ones as well that are known as green pods, are 833 square feet of space, which includes a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom across 3.5 levels. Now, it's not exactly palatial in scale, but its price tag is. At present, the cost of one of these oddities is between $295,000 and $1.5 million. So these are definitely not a budget-conscious choice. Now, if you do have very deep pockets and you love gadgets, and you don't mind traveling all around by paddleboard, perhaps this is the sort of place for you. The entire thing is controlled by a special techie bracelet instead of keys, and old-fashioned junk like that. Food and stuff is delivered by drone, or bigger stuff is going to arrive on a larger robot sort of vehicle. So if you thought that it all looks a little bit Star Trek, well, that's because it really actually is. Number 2. Departure 1. In yet another combination vehicle, we have the Departure 1, which is a hybrid camper van and boat. Yes, this is literally a caravan that can turn into a houseboat. So, if you're undecided, or you find that you're always spending your vacations deep in a bout of FOMO when you get yourself one of these, you don't have to choose between the road or the water ever again. You can have both. This trailer has the space to sleep 4, as well as a living space, a kitchen, a small terrace, and the entire thing can be bunged on the water and controlled with a 15-horsepower engine. When it's on land, the caravan has all the regular camping stuff that you would expect, like a toilet, a shower, heating and cooling systems. Oh, and it all comes in a choice of color combos, all of which are really kind of bland and German, but still, it is a boat that's also a caravan, and that is nothing if not convenient. You can have all of this for the absolute snip of a deal at $67,500, at the basic model level anyways. So what are you even waiting for? It's time to smash open that piggy bank. Number 1. The Blue Turtle. Finally, we have a teeny-weeny little houseboat, measures just 15 feet wide and 38 feet long. It slots in neatly in a regular marina and provides dinky housing for the small in stature. Built out of plywood and fiberglass, the Blue Turtle is basically a regular little tiny house, but it happens to be on water rather than land. The only real difference is that the bedrooms are on the bottom level because the sway of the vessel from the water is not so strong because it's upstairs, and that makes it more comfortable for sleeping. The Blue Turtle was built by a couple in Auckland, New Zealand, so that they could enjoy all the benefits of being in the city, but with that feeling of always being on holiday, and really, good for them. Well, unfortunately, that's all for floaty homes for today. I hope you do have your sea legs. Which of these homes would you actually choose to live in? Go on and let me know all about it in the comments section down below. You should also be sure to check out these other cool things that are showing up on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.